Hi, I'm Sarah. Today I'm going to read you the story of Charlotte, titled like this. We're not doing Christmas gifts this year, Mom said. But when my kids and I walked in, I saw presents only for my sister's children. Mom smiled and said, "We found the money only for 2 good gifts." That night, I deleted every subscription. Well, let's begin. I'm Charlotte, and I need to tell you what went down this past Christmas because I'm still processing everything. Let me give you a bit of background first. I'm 32, married to Mike for 8 years now, and we have 2 kids, Emma, who's 7, and Jake, who's 5. We live about 40 minutes from my parents' place in the suburbs. My parents, Linda and Robert, are in their early 60s. Dad worked at a factory most of his life, while Mom was a school secretary. They retired a couple of years ago. Then there's my older sister, Nancy. She's 35, married to Brad, and they have 2 boys, Tyler, who's 9, and Mason, who's 7. Nancy works in marketing, Brad's in sales, and honestly, they've always done pretty well for themselves. Growing up, Nancy was always the golden child. No lie. It was obvious even then. She got the bigger bedroom, the newer clothes, and the car when she turned 16, while I had to wait until 18 and buy my own. But whatever. I thought I'd made peace with it. Mike and I are doing okay. He's an electrician, and I work part-time at a dental office while managing the kids. Money isn't exactly overflowing, but we get by. We save for birthdays and Christmas, and make sure the kids have what they need. Here's where it gets interesting. About a month before Christmas, maybe late November, my parents called me. Mom was on speaker with Dad, and they both sounded serious. "Charlotte, honey, we need to talk to you about Christmas," Mom began. "Your father and I are having some financial difficulties right now. Medical bills, the roof needing repairs. You know how it is." Dad jumped in. "We're not doing gifts this year. We can't afford it. And we don't want you spending money on us either. Just having everyone together is enough." I was surprised, though not shocked. They'd been complaining about money for years. "Okay, no problem. The kids would understand. Family time mattered most." Good, we already talked to Nancy too." "Same deal," Mom added. After I hung up, I told Mike. He shrugged and said, "Your parents are always broke. What's new?" But here's the thing, I couldn't just show up empty-handed. It didn't feel right. So I bought them small gifts anyway. A nice coffee mug set for Mom since she collects them, and work gloves for Dad since his were falling apart. Maybe $30 total. The kids made cute homemade Christmas cards with glitter and everything. Christmas Eve came around. We packed up the car, the kids all excited, even though I'd explained there wouldn't be presents at Grandma and Grandpa's this year. They seemed fine with it. Kids are resilient like that. We pulled up to my parents' house around 4 in the afternoon. The lights were up. It looked festive enough. Dad opened the door, gave us quick hugs, and said, Come in. It's freezing out there." The house smelled like Mom's sugar cookies, and the tree stood in the living room corner like always. But something was off. I noticed it right away. There were presents under the tree. I looked at Mike. He raised his eyebrows. The kids hadn't noticed yet. They were taking off their coats. "Mom," I called into the kitchen. She came out wiping her hands on her apron. Emma and Jake ran to hug her. I waited until they ran off to find the cat before saying anything. "Mom, what's with the presents? I thought you said no gifts this year." She didn't look at me, just fussed with some decorations on the mantel. "Oh, those—" "Well, what?" I pressed. "You literally told me a month ago you couldn't afford anything." That's when the doorbell rang. Mom practically ran to answer it, looking relieved. I heard Nancy's voice before I saw her. "Merry Christmas." "Oh, Mom, the house looks amazing." Nancy swept in with Brad and the boys. Tyler and Mason immediately spotted the tree. "Presents!" Mason screamed, making a beeline for them. "Grandma, are these for us?" Tyler was already shaking boxes with his name on them. My stomach dropped when Mom smiled and said, "Of course they're for you boys, but you have to wait until after dinner to open them." I looked at my kids. Emma stood beside me watching her cousins. Jake held Mike's hand, his little face puzzled. "Dad," I whispered, "where are the gifts for Emma and Jake?" He couldn't look at me. He just stared at his feet and mumbled, "We found some money at the last minute. Only had enough for 2 nice gifts." Nancy's boys are older. They understand these things more. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mason held up a box clearly shaped like a video game console. Tyler found one that looked exactly like the skateboard he'd been wanting. My kids stood there, confused and silent, trying to process why their cousins had gifts and they didn't. Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Mommy, didn't Grandma say no presents for anyone? What was I supposed to tell her, that Grandma lied? That her grandparents loved her cousins more?" My hands shook. Mike's jaw was clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Nancy walked over, oblivious. "Charlotte, Merry Christmas." I just stared. At her, at my parents, at my children now crying quietly, trying to hide it. "This is not normal," I said, my voice trembling. "You've humiliated my children. They're standing right here watching their cousins get presents while they get nothing." Mom threw up her hands. "Oh, Charlotte, always so dramatic. Calm down. We found the money at the last minute. What were we supposed to do? We only had enough for 2 good gifts. You were supposed to split it 4 ways, or stick to your plan of no gifts." My voice rose. Nancy finally caught on. "Wait, what's happening?" "Mom and Dad got your kids Christmas presents, but nothing for mine," I said, after telling me they couldn't afford gifts this year. Nancy looked uncomfortable but stayed silent. Brad just checked his phone. Mom sighed. "Look, maybe next year we'll get the expensive gifts for Emma and Jake. It'll even out." That's when I realized it was never going to even out. It never had, and it never would. "We're leaving," I said. I walked over to the tree and picked up the 2 small wrapped packages I'd brought for my parents. "These were for you." Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, thinking. My phone buzzed. Mom had posted on Facebook multiple photos of her, Dad, and Nancy's family around the dinner table. Huge smiles, the boys holding their new presents. Mason's Nintendo Switch, Tyler's skateboard, just like I'd guessed. The caption read, "One of the happiest days of my life. Blessed to spend Christmas with my beloved grandchildren and daughter Nancy. So much love in this house. My beloved grandchildren and daughter Nancy. Like I didn't exist. Like my kids didn't exist. That's it," I said. "What's it?" Mike asked. I pulled out my laptop, opened the spreadsheet where I track our bills and expenses. There was a section labeled Family Help. "Look at this," I said, turning the screen to him. "Netflix Family Plan covers our house, my parents, and Nancy's. That's $30 a month. Mom's car insurance, $150. Cable and internet for my parents, $200. Spotify Family Plan, another $20. And the big one, our cell phone family plan. I'm paying for lines for Mom, Dad, Nancy, and Brad. That's another $200 a month." Mike whistled. "I've been telling you this was too much." "I know, I said quietly. "But they're family. They kept saying they were struggling, that it was temporary." He looked at me. "Charlotte, it's been 5 years. I did the math. Holy crap, Mike. I'm spending $2,000 a month on them." I showed him the numbers. It was actually $2,050 when you included the Amazon Prime membership I shared with them. That's $24,600 a year. Mike said, "We could have taken the kids to Disney World multiple times. I always thought family helps family, but you know what? They just showed me I'm not really family." Right there on my laptop, I opened all the accounts. Netflix, profiles removed, password changed. Amazon took them off my household. Spotify kicked them off the family plan. Then I called the cable company. It took 20 minutes, but I canceled the service at my parents' address, internet too. The car insurance would have to wait until morning when the office opened. Same with the cell phones. The next morning my phone rang at 8 a.m. sharp. "Dad, Charlotte, what the hell did you do? The Netflix doesn't work, cable's out, internet too. We can't even make calls on our cell phones." "Merry Christmas, Dad," I said, and hung up. 2 seconds later, Nancy called. "You ruined our whole Christmas. We can't call anyone to wish them happy holidays. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Brad's mom is wondering why we haven't called." I hung up on her too and turned off my phone. Mike looked at me from the couch where he was helping Jake build a Lego set. "Feel better?" "Actually, yeah. Hey, didn't your parents invite us to come visit? They've been asking for months. Mom would love it. Let's go today. Let's give the kids a real Christmas." 2 hours later, we were in the car, bags packed, kids excited about the adventure. Mike's parents lived in a smaller town upstate, with a big old farmhouse surrounded by actual land. When we pulled up, his mom, Susan, came running out. "Oh my goodness! We didn't think you were coming. We have all these presents under the tree for you guys. I was going to ship them. Grandma Susan!" The kids practically flew out of the car into her arms. Mike's dad, Tom, came out and helped with the bags. "This is the best surprise," he said. "Susan's been cooking for an army, hoping you'd show up." Inside, their tree was huge, covered in ornaments, and underneath were at least a dozen wrapped presents. The kids' eyes went wide. "Are some of those for us?" Emma asked quietly, like she couldn't believe it. "Sweetie, they're all for you guys," Susan said. "Every single one." The kids tore into those presents like it was the best day of their lives. Board games, books, art supplies, new winter coats. Susan had even made them each a homemade stocking with their names embroidered on them. "How did you know what to get them?" I asked Susan, watching Jake hug a stuffed dinosaur. "I called you back in October asking for ideas, remember? When you said you weren't sure if you could make it for Christmas. I decided to get everything anyway." That night, after the kids crashed from all the excitement, I turned my phone back on. 43 missed calls, 28 texts. I scrolled through them. "Mom, this is theft. You stole our accounts." "Dad, we're calling the police if you don't fix this immediately." "Nancy, how could you do this to Mom and Dad?" "Mom again. You're vindictive and ungrateful after everything we've done for you." I sent one group text back. "I've been paying for all your services for 5 years. That ends now. You're on your own." Then I turned the phone off again. We stayed at Mike's parents' for 2 more days. It was peaceful. Susan taught Emma how to make cookies. Tom took Jake out to see the chickens. Normal grandparent stuff. When we got home, there was a police car in our driveway. My parents were standing next to it. "That's her. That's our daughter who hacked our accounts." Dad was pointing at me. The officer looked tired. "Ma'am, your parents say you've stolen their Netflix and other accounts." I almost laughed. "Officer, 1 second." I went inside, grabbed a folder from my desk, came back out, and handed it to him. "Here are all the account statements showing they're in my name. Here are 5 years of credit card statements showing I've been paying for everything. Their names aren't on any of these accounts." The officer looked through the papers, then at my parents. "This is a family matter, not a criminal one. These are her accounts. She can do what she wants with them. But she cut us off from everything." Mom wailed. "Then maybe you should pay for your own services." The officer said, "Don't call us for this again." After he left, my parents stood in the driveway looking shocked. I went inside and shut the door. The next few days were a circus. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly concerned about my mental health. Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister, called. "Charlotte, honey, are you okay? Your mom says you had some kind of breakdown on Christmas." "Aunt Pat, let me tell you what actually happened." I explained everything. The no gifts announcement, the presents for Nancy's kids only, the Facebook post, the thousands I'd been paying. She was quiet for a long moment. "They told everyone you went crazy and stormed out for no reason." "That's awful, sweetie. I didn't expect this from them. Word must have spread because the call shifted from, 'Are you okay?' to 'I had no idea your parents would do that.'" Then on New Year's Eve, a package arrived addressed to Emma and Jake from their grandparents. I opened it carefully. Inside were 2 sets of cheap markers, 2 small sketchbooks, and a card that said, "With hope for reconciliation." I looked up the brand on Amazon. The whole thing maybe cost $20. I took pictures of everything, then went on Nancy's Facebook. She'd posted pictures from Christmas morning, Tyler and Mason holding their Nintendo Switch and skateboard. I screenshotted those, sent both sets of pictures to my mom with one message. "Compare what you gave your grandchildren, $20 of markers versus hundreds in electronics. This is why we're done." Then I packed up the markers and sketchbooks and sent them back via courier with a note. "Keep them." After that, I blocked both my parents' numbers. A week into January, Nancy showed up at my door. "We need to talk," she said. I let her in. We sat at my kitchen table. the same spot where I'd figured out the money situation. Charlotte, I swear I didn't know they were getting my kids presents. They told me the same thing about having no money. I didn't see the presents until we got there. I thought they were from other relatives or something. I pulled out my laptop and showed her the spreadsheet. Her eyes got wider and wider as she read. You've been paying for all of this? $2,000 a month, Charlotte? That's insane. They said they needed help. They said it was temporary. I showed her another folder I'd been keeping, pictures from past Christmases and birthdays. Look at the gifts your kids get versus mine. Nancy scrolled through them. New bikes, game consoles, expensive clothes for her boys, books, and small toys for mine. Oh my God, I never noticed. I never compared. Charlotte, I'm so sorry. You never wondered why your phone bill never came? Brad handles our bills. I thought he was paying it. She looked genuinely sick. I talked to Mom and Dad about Christmas. They won't admit they did anything wrong. They keep saying you overreacted. Of course they do. Listen, what if I throw a party for the kids? Like a do-over Christmas. I'll make it special for Emma and Jake. I studied her face. She seemed sincere. A week later, we went to Nancy's house. She'd gone all out, hired a magician, a guy in a superhero costume, a bounce house in the backyard even though it was freezing, and presents the same for all 4 kids. Nice ones too. Emma and Jake had the time of their lives. Tyler and Mason played with them like nothing had happened. Thank you, I told Nancy as we watched them. I really didn't know, Charlotte. About the money, about the favoritism. Maybe I didn't want to. It's been easier being the favorite, you know. At least she was honest. We started doing playdates after that, slowly rebuilding. Nancy told me she'd confronted our parents multiple times, but they wouldn't budge. They told Aunt Pat you insulted them as parents and they're done with you. Nancy said during one visit. I told them they needed to apologize. Mom said you should be the one apologizing. That's never happening. I know. I told her that. She said, then you're not welcome in their lives. Their loss, I said, and meant it. Over the next few months, Nancy and I kept meeting up with the kids. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. She'd text me when she talked to our parents, giving me updates I didn't ask for. Mom bought a new TV. She told me one day at the park while our kids played. A 60-inch smart TV cost like $800. I laughed. But they couldn't afford Christmas presents for all their grandkids. That's what I said. Mom changed the subject. Brad had apparently been shocked about the phone bill situation. He'd been sending money to my parents monthly, thinking he was paying for their family plan. Turns out my parents had been pocketing it while you paid the actual bill. Brad wants to pay you back, Nancy said. He insists. At least let him cover some of the kids' party costs. I let him write me a check for $500. It helped. Spring came around and Nancy had an idea. What if we take the kids on a trip this summer? Like a family vacation, just us, no parents. Rent a house for a week, split everything 50-50. We booked a house for July at the Outer Banks, 4 bedrooms, right on the beach. The kids were counting down the days. Meanwhile, my parents had gone full victim mode on Facebook, posting passive-aggressive memes about ungrateful children and how blood doesn't mean family. Their friends would comment with support, having no idea what really happened. Aunt Patricia called me one day. Your mother is telling everyone you abandoned them over $20. She said that's all she spent less on your kids than Nancy's, and you threw a fit. Pat, the Nintendo Switch alone was $300. I know, honey. I tried to tell her she needed to make this right. She hung up on me. The beach trip in July was perfect. Nancy and I split everything straight down the middle. No drama, no favorites. The kids built sandcastles. We taught them to boogie board and had ice cream every night. One evening, after the kids were asleep, Nancy and I sat on the deck with some wine. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? I thought about it. They'd have to admit what they did. First, actually acknowledge it, and they never will, Mom. Told me last week that you're being petty and childish, while she posts memes about ungrateful children. That's rich. Nancy's phone buzzed. She looked at it and frowned. Mom's asking if I can add them to my Netflix account. We both burst out laughing. Tell her it's $30 a month if she wants her own account, I said. She says she can't afford it. But she could afford a new TV. Nancy put her phone away. I'm not answering. That's when I knew things were really changing. Nancy was starting to see it all clearly. When we got back from vacation, there was a letter in my mailbox, Mom's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. Charlotte, your father and I are disappointed in how you've chosen to handle this situation. We gave you everything growing up, and this is how you repay us. By humiliating us in front of the family, by stealing our services. We've decided we no longer want you in our lives until you apologize and make things right. You know what you need to do. Mom, I kept the letter. Sometimes, when I felt guilty, I'd read it again and remember why I made the choices I did. Nancy and I have gotten closer since all this went down. She tells me bits about our parents. Dad's arthritis is acting up. Mom joined a book club. I don't ask, but I don't stop her from sharing either. They ask about you sometimes, she told me last week. What do you tell them? That you're doing great. That your kids are happy and healthy. That you're not coming back until they make things right. And what do they say? Nothing. They change the subject. It's been almost a year now since that Christmas. Emma and Jake don't ask about their grandparents much anymore. When they do, I tell them that sometimes adults need time apart to think about things. They seem to accept that. Mike's parents have filled the gap beautifully. They video call the kids every week, send cards for every little occasion, and visit every couple of months. They're what grandparents should be. Nancy mentioned yesterday that she and Brad are planning another beach trip for next summer. Same place, same week? She asked. Absolutely. Good. The kids are already asking about it. Mine too. She paused. I keep hoping Mom and Dad will come around. Nancy, they won't. They're too proud. They've never admitted they were wrong about anything in their entire lives. I know, but maybe someday. Maybe. But I'm not holding my breath. Fair enough. The truth is, I'm happier now. Yeah, it sucks not having parents, but I also don't have the stress of managing their finances while being treated like a second-class daughter. The kids are thriving. Mike and I have extra money now for actual family stuff. We even started a college fund for each kid with some of what we're saving. Nancy sent me a text this morning, a screenshot of Mom asking her to add them to her Spotify. Tell her it's $20 a month. I texted back, already did. She said, that's highway robbery. But $2,000 a month for me was fine. Apparently, never change. Mom, never change. Nancy and I are taking the kids to the zoo next weekend. Just us, the kids, and no drama. It's become our new normal, and honestly, it's pretty great. My parents can keep their pride and their empty Netflix account. I've got my kids, my husband, my sister back, and my self-respect. Turns out that's worth way more than $2,000 a month.